Welcome to my film review of Godzilla, King of the Monsters. So we had Godzilla in 2014, which I think I'd only seen once, wasn't a fan of it. It was even on TV recently, and from what I remembered of watching it the first time, I didn't even watch it. You know, and I'm a movie addict. I love movies. I will watch a good movie, the same movie, over and over and over, and never get bored, as long as it's a good movie. So with this one, Godzilla in 2014, I kind of could remember that I didn't think much of it and I didn't watch it again. And I think it would have been useful too, because this movie does very much continue on, but you soon get to grips with who the characters are and what they've obviously been through in the past becomes apparent. So it doesn't really matter if you haven't seen the first one or if you can't really remember what happens. But I think, you know, there's a couple of things of benefit information-wise that makes it worthwhile, but it's not essential. And then we had Kong Skull Island in 2017. Was never a big fan of Peter Jackson's King Kong, even though I was crazy about Peter Jackson movies, and nevertheless I really enjoyed Kong Skull Island. It was a movie I went to see, really enjoyed it at the cinema, but not so much with this third edition. They are calling this the Monsterverse. So it's kind of like, you know, Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're trying to do something similar with Godzilla, King Kong, those kind of things. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops, you know. Hopefully they can make it into a good mini franchise. But I hope they get better script writers for the next one, because this was on for 2 hours and 10 minutes, and for probably 70% of the movie my mind was wandering. I was thinking about other things and feeling a little bit peeved off actually at just how bad a movie it was. So yeah, this is actually going to be a review where I think once I've spelt out my usual non-spoiler analysis, I think I'm actually going to go into a little bit of a rant, a spoiler rant. So I'm going to talk about specific parts in the movie that peeved me off, and have a bit of a rant about it. So I'll let you know well in advance before I start talking about any spoiler elements. But if you've seen the movie and you want to come back and listen to my rant, then you know where to come. So anyway, so let's go on to the movie. Now, I wanted to see this at the cinema. I mean, this is some movies you think to yourself, it probably doesn't matter if I don't see that at the cinema. You know, it's maybe a documentary, things that you know aren't going to have too much cinematic, spectacular scenery and, you know, effects going off. Now, this is the absolute other end of the scale where you absolutely need to see this at the cinema. I mean, that was clear. So, saw it at the cinema. I'm glad I did in that regard, because, you know, the action scenes were decent, you know, between Godzilla and the other monsters. So yeah, for that point it's worth seeing at the cinema. But bear this in mind, I've got the Cineworld Pass. I can see as many movies as I want each month, and I've come out of that movie feeling peeved, feeling aggrieved, feeling a little bit peeved off, really. And that's not because I spent any money on the movie, it's just because I think I've wasted my time with that movie. You know, there's other movies I could have seen. I could have gone and seen Avengers Endgame one last time today instead, and God, I wish I'd done that instead. I really do. This was just so disappointing. Maybe as disappointing as the first Godzilla, I don't know. But basically, whenever there wasn't any action going on, whenever it was like the non-major fight scenes, I found myself like really annoyed, like really aggravated. Like, the storyline, it was almost like a 2-year-old had written it for 2-year-olds. And it just wasn't feasible. Most of what was happening was ludicrous, didn't make sense. It was almost as if the director had thought, right, okay, we need to have this particular sequence. Okay, so how can we make it happen? Oh, don't worry about that. We'll just all of a sudden say, okay, this is about to happen, and the audience are just supposed to buy it. Now, to say a movie like this doesn't make sense and is unrealistic does sound a little bit of a weird thing to say, because at the end of the day, it's a fucking Godzilla movie, you know? Is it supposed to be realistic? Is any Godzilla movie realistic? You know, it's big, stupid, unrealistic dinosaur type things. Of course it's not realistic. But as a movie fan, you accept those elements. You know, you don't go to a movie expecting what happens to be realistic, because we go to the movies for an out of this world experience. But what would be nice is if just some of the acting with the humans and the script writing at least made some sense, you know? Make it seem like you've put some effort into the story writing, and you haven't just like done action scene, action scene, action scene. Right, now we need to tie them all together. How are we going to do that? Oh, let's not waste too much time thinking about how we tie them all together. Let's just come up with the first thing that we think of. That'll do. And even the first thing you can think of should have been better than what it was. So at the end of the day, this is a movie where if you love the Godzilla franchise, for sure, I'm sure you're going to like this. There's plenty of action scenes, there's plenty of good stuff going on, but to be honest, some of the stuff that was going on, I found a little bit annoying. It was almost like, oh, here we go, here's another drama. It was like everything that could have gone wrong, went wrong. And it becomes a little bit overwhelming, a little bit like, oh, really? You know, it's just, gets a little bit silly, you know, like every tiny little thing that could have gone wrong, went wrong. And then on top of that, I got annoyed from the start, actually, because at the start of the movie, there's a family scene and a sequence of events involving, let's say, a mother and a daughter. And what happens is just the most unrealistic thing on the world. Anyone that's had a mum, I know there's some people out there that, you know, might not have had a loving and caring mum, but I think it's probably 99.9% of the world have had a loving and caring mum, because it's coded into them to protect your child, to love your child no matter what, and to protect them and to care for them more than anything else in the world. Well, not in this movie. Apparently the mum couldn't give a rat's piss about the safety of her child, and that just got my back up straight away, because I thought, yes, okay, it's an unrealistic movie about Godzilla, I get that, but it's just the most unrealistic thing about this movie is the mother's actions towards her child. It's so unrealistic, it's ridiculous. So I had my back up straight away on this movie. And then the other thing that I became very quickly aware of, I couldn't help but watch trailers for this, because being to the cinema a lot recently, there's a lot of good stuff, and the Godzilla trailer has been on all the time. I think I even saw it on TV at home, which is bizarre because I never watch adverts at home. I record anything with adverts and skip them. So the fact that I even saw this advert at home must show that this was a heavily advertised movie. And that would be okay, except the advert was the biggest bloody giveaway spoiler advert on the planet, and I'd only seen one type, and in each movie that I'd seen, this one particular phrase was used. Now, if you haven't seen it, obviously I'm not going to spoil it for you, because that's not what my reviews are about. Far from it. They're all about not spoiling anything at all about what happens in the movie. So I'm not going to say what happened, but you'd think to yourself, oh, okay, well, maybe they said that in the movie because it's said at the maybe they said that in the trailer because it comes apparent in the movie almost straight away. It wasn't said until the last 10 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes of the movie. So this thing that they say in the trailer, which is a pretty big thing, it's the kind of thing that you think, oh, woo, that's different. Okay, right, got ya. That isn't said until like the last frickin' 10 minutes of the movie. So the whole of the movie, they haven't told you that, but because you've seen the trailer, you know it, and it's just like, maybe it doesn't matter. But me personally, I like to go into a movie knowing as little as possible about the plot and how the storyline is going to develop. Show me a few action scenes, yeah, that's fine. Show me a bit of a taster about what's going to go down in this movie, but don't tell me stuff in the trailer that you don't find out in the movie until the very, very end of the movie, because that is just ludicrous. I mean, who the hell makes these decisions? Probably the same idiot that made the decision about the script. It's just so bad. I'm furious, actually. I feel a little bit like I did after watching the movie Us. I thought that was utterly, utterly appalling as well. And like I say, action scenes great, movie as a whole, absolutely terrible. Let's put it this way. I've seen this movie now at the cinema. I will absolutely 100% never watch this movie again. Never. I won't watch it if it comes on TV. No chance am I going to waste another 2 hours of my life watching this movie again. And now that I've seen it on the big screen, fine, that's the best way to see it. So I've seen it, you know, with the spectacular scenes on the big screen. I saw it in a really good screening today. It was one of my favourite screens. It's got a huge cinema, huge screen, and I can sit in a really good position close to the screen, but not too close, if you know what I mean. Had the perfect positionment and everything for this movie. Booked it in advance. And I came away feeling like I do, you know, and I will never watch it again. So I think that's all you really need to know about the movie. So if I was to score this out of 10, what would I give it? I want to say 5, but I gave Cold Pursuit 5.5. To be honest, yeah, Cold Pursuit was a lot better than this, and I gave that 5.5, and I really didn't like a lot about Cold Pursuit. So yeah, I think a 5 out of 10. No, I'm going to give this a 4.8 out of 10. This is just below 5 out of 10. This really isn't good. I'm looking forward on the way home, actually. I'm going to listen to some movie reviews. I haven't heard any reviews about this movie because I don't want to have anything spoilt. So I'll be interested to see what the movie reviews have to say about this. But I thought it sucked. So there you go. I'm giving it a 4.8 out of 10. And most importantly as well, this was a beauty of a movie in terms of being a popcorn muncher. You can munch. You could take crisps in there, you could take firecrackers in there, and you wouldn't be able to disturb your neighbour, because the movie is incredibly loud and noisy all the way through, pretty much from the start. So for me, I'm an ice cream eater, but anybody that would have had, say, popcorn or crisps or any other noisy confectionery, fear not, you can eat in peace and not worry about disturbing the fellow cinema goers, because this is a very, very noisy movie. So my tips on whether you're going to see this: if, like me, any blockbuster movie you just have to see, whether you think it's your cup of tea or not, then yeah, you've got to see this at the cinema. But whatever you do, go and see it on a buy one get one free day. Do not pay full price for this. I think you'll feel sick if you do. You've got other great movies that are out right now. Do those on your date nights, your Friday nights, Saturday nights, when you have to pay full price. But otherwise, if you want to tick this movie off, if you can see it for free, fine, but don't prioritize it over seeing something brilliant. If it's your last chance to see, for instance, Avengers Endgame, I wish I'd seen that one more time rather than watching this for the first time. But otherwise, you know, feel free to watch it if you can see it for free, and otherwise, if you're going to watch it, do buy one get one free. View this as cheaply as possible. It's the only way that you're not going to be aggrieved. But then again, if you're a mad Godzilla fan, maybe you love this movie. I was just disappointed with the script and a lot of how the movie went down, and you know, just it seemed like there'd been very little effort made in the script on this, and that's disappointing for a movie that clearly has obviously spent a lot of money making the movie. Just couldn't be asked to spend any time or effort writing a script that was intriguing. Oh, there was one element of the script that I really enjoyed, where I thought, oh yes, this has just turned it around for me. All of a sudden, this movie has gone from potentially the worst movie ever, not the worst movie ever, but pretty bad, to a movie that I'm going to really get behind. And that is global warming. There's a hint of that in there. So there's a dash, a sprinkling of climate change, global warming, that kind of message. So any movie that carries that message, for me, is brilliant, because, you know, let's hope we see a lot more movies that cover that particular topic. But the fact that it covered that and brought it into the movie was nice. I appreciated that. Maybe I wanted more, would be my gripe there, but the fact that it came into the movie was nice, so that was good. So I don't think I really need to say much more about this one, you know. Massively disappointing from my point of view. If you must see it because you're a Godzilla fan, fine, but if you miss this one off your list altogether, fine as well. There is some good stuff out there. I mean, Toy Story, Men in Black, yesterday, what else is there? There's Spider-Man coming out, you know, so see Avengers Endgame again. See a blockbuster movie. If you don't get to the cinema very often, give this one a miss and see a blockbuster. This is not a blockbuster, it's pants. And before long, I'm sure it'll be on Netflix because it's just not that good. So anyway, there is my review for this movie. Thank you very much for listening. Next, I'm going to talk about some specific spoilery elements of the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to hear them right now, please switch off. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you on the next review. Thank you. So on with the spoiler elements. There's one element that I want to talk about. Oh, I should have said this earlier actually. The movie's trying to be a comedy. Okay? This was another thing that grieved me about the movie. Clearly it was trying to be a comedy, and oh my god, it was so not funny. It was like tumbleweed. You know, when you've got like a joke gets laid out there and then just silence. Almost like, it was literally almost like they'd put a little bit of silence into the movie to allow the audience time to laugh. Because there was a deafening silence within the cinema, and this has been, like I said earlier, this is quite a noisy movie. So to have that deafening silence for a moment where you're thinking, you could literally picture in your mind tumbleweed just blowing through the cinema. It was so bad. And that happened almost every single time there was a supposed gag laid out in the movie. It was just so bad. I'm not a funny guy, right? I don't consider myself to be funny, but you know, I could have made better gags than this. It was terrible. And this is a bloody multi-million-pound movie. If you can't afford to get someone funny to write in some funny gags and funny situations, then what the hell are you doing? Put some more effort into it. So disappointing. I mean, I love movies, and when they've got a budget like this to spend, it should not be such a flawed movie. So here was a particular gag, right? The big monster guy was called Kido or something like that, right? And when the Chinese lady said his name, one of the guys, this was the guy that quite often was supposed to be saying things that were supposed to be funny and just weren't. He's just a pathetic human being. That's how you feel about him, not that he's funny. So anyway, this one particular guy responds to the Chinese goes, and I'm sure he said, "Did you say gonorrhea?" And then there was like, you know, that was the gag. It was like supposed to be, gonorrhea. That's so funny. You said gonorrhea. That is hilarious. And the Chinese lady, very annoyed, said, "No, I said kido." It didn't even sound like gonorrhea. And I was thinking, that's ridiculous, because it didn't sound alike at all. But guess what? I've read the full synopsis of the movie now that I've watched it. And this particular kido, when you look at it, how it's spelledGhidorah. So they're assuming that people have read the synopsis, seen this monster's name, and although it's pronounced Kido, which in English sounds like Kido, when you see it spelt, it almost does look like gonorrhea. But she didn't frickin' spell it to him. She just said Kido. And he responds and says, "Did you say gonorrhea?" Because that's what it looks like. I mean, that is just so pathetic. I mean, that is the worst attempted joke ever. Because it didn't sound like gonorrhea. And the only people that would have found that remotely funny would be the people that have read the synopsis and remembered in their brain that this really hard to spell, weird looking name looked like gonorrhea. Come on. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That is the worst attempted joke I've ever come across, ever. So, other things that annoyed me. The woman, she puts, at the very beginning, she's right in the most dangerous place on the planet, and guess who she's got with her, living right next door to the big monster? Her daughter. That's BS. No way would you do that. You would have your daughter off somewhere safe, wouldn't you? You know, what kind of a mother would intentionally have their daughter living right next door to the most dangerous monster on the planet? It's absolute nonsense. And that straight away got my back up and really annoyed me. And then later on in the movie, the father attempts to rescue the daughter from a really bad situation. And instead of the mum being like, "Oh, great, the father's come to rescue us," she calls her daughter back and makes her stick with her. And that's ludicrous. And the fact that a father, it was just so bad. That whole family situation thing, didn't like it. Do you know, I'm trying to think of the other things that I wanted to really gripe about. There was so many. The lack of humour, really annoying. The there's a moment where the woman where somebody has a chance to be saved and run away to safety or be a hero, right? And the movie depicts it in such a way that she had no choice. She had to be a hero or everyone would have been doomed, okay? But the scene where this person, shit, this is a spoiler element, so I can tell you, I can talk about it. At the end, the woman, the mother, she has the chance to get on the plane, and they bomb off in the plane to safety. But she's like, oh, we have to make a sacrifice because otherwise the monster's going to get us all. If I don't sacrifice myself, we're all going to die. And they have this moment where the mother looks at the child looks at the mother, and there's this, like, in the mind, it's like, no, don't do it, I have to, I love you, goodbye, child. No, oh. And then after they go through all that, they pause for ages, look at each other for ages. This must have lasted about 30 seconds. And then when she finally does dart off in the other direction, the monster's still miles away. So what I'm saying there is, she had like 30 seconds easy. She was stood right next to the plane. It would have taken her less than 2 seconds to just get on the plane, and then boom, the plane could have gone. But instead they waste 30 seconds, or it felt like that, of, oh, I'm gonna have to go, oh, I love you, but I've got to go, I'm sorry, bye. Oh no, mum, please don't go. And she could have just stepped on the plane. It's not like she was like 100 meters away. She was 2 meters away from the plane. She could have just stepped on the plane, they could have bombed off to safety, and the monster was miles away and wouldn't have stood a chance of catching them. But the director obviously wanted to have a real sad moment at the end, and instead of doing it in a way that actually frickin' made sense, he did it like that, and it was pathetic. Why couldn't it have been a scenario where she needed to sacrifice herself, rather than just deciding randomly that I'm gonna kill myself just to look like a hero, and to make the public go from hating her, like I was saying earlier, because she's the worst mum in the world, to all of, oh, she's redeemed herself now because she's killed herself. No, she hasn't. She's left a daughter in the world without a mum. She's just made herself an even worse mum. She killed herself unnecessarily. That's like committing suicide, you know? You think of the loved ones that you leave behind, it's worse for them. And that's exactly what she did. So, no, director, that sucks ass. That was a terrible attempt at bringing a little bit of a tearjerker. Ooh, my heartstrings have been plucked. No, not at all. Didn't give a monkeys. It wasn't in the slightest bit dramatic. And then, guess what? Just as the monster's about to kill the heroic woman, mother, just as she's about to die, guess what? Godzilla steps up just in the nick of time. Oh, and then I'm thinking, great, so now she's going to survive. And then obviously Godzilla all of a sudden can do these sonic booms from his chest, which, you know, is like an atomic blast that obliterates everything in its vicinity. And then the movie is that bad, I literally thought the woman was going to survive. And at the end, the woman was going to, like, you know, pipe up and go, I'm here, I'm still alive. Oh, my daughter, come back to me. Oh, I'm so... everything's forgiven now because you sacrificed, but you survived. Isn't that just great? I honestly thought that was going to happen, and I was going to be really mad, because obviously there's no way anyone could have survived those atomic blasts. Or supposedly, if the atomic blasts actually were supposed to do anything, which they were, because it took out the badass monster, so why wouldn't it kill a human being? But clearly it did, because she didn't survive, or at least the movie didn't show that she survived. But that was how bad it was. I literally thought she was going to survive. And then what else was there? There was so many. I'm gonna remember them once I stop, which is annoying. There were. I mean, I was shaking my head, like head in my hands almost at times. What was the other bit? Yeah, just the cheesy element of the way. Oh, that was another part that really annoyed me. At the end, the daughter was unconscious. No reason at all why she should be unconscious. There was literally no reason. She was safely protected in the bath, and some concrete was covering the bath, which was making the perfect incubated safety zone for her. So there was nothing that could have hit her head to knock her out. There was no logical reason why she would be unconscious, but just to add that dramatic effect, just to tug on the heartstrings. Mum and Dad arrive, and there they find their daughter in the bath. Is she alive, or isn't she? Oh, the drama. Oh, the suspense. Oh, I'm going to shed a tear. This is amazing. This is the best, saddest movie I've ever seen. No, it was pathetic. And then how does she revive herself? The daughter, all of a sudden, just as you've had enough time to shed a tear and feel really sad, the daughter, oh, I'm alive now. I've just coughed myself awake. I've coughed myself out of unconsciousness, as you do. God, it was pathetic. The director, I mean, either the director is a mug, and I don't really know his name, Michael Doherty. I'm going to have to look into what other movies he's done. He's probably done some crackers, and I'm like slagging off a really good director here. Maybe it wasn't the director's fault. Maybe it was the scriptwriter's fault. I don't know. But my God, it was cheesy. The whole movie just had a cheesy element to it, and none of it went down well. It just left a bad taste in your mouth. It just made you feel like, as an audience member, you were just being fobbed off. And it was just like, fob you off until we get to the next dramatic fight scene. It really was bad. God, I hated this movie, actually. I gave it a 4.5 out of 10. I think that's generous. I think that is generous. I might have to give it worse than that. I think I'm going to. No, I mean, it can have 4 out of 10, but it can have that extra 0.8 of a mark for the scenes. Oh, God, it was watchable, but disappointing. So I think that was the main gripes I wanted to talk about, really. The ones at the end really got to me. I'm sure there was a few early on. Like I say, the mother scene, being a bad mum and all that kind of stuff really got to me. I didn't like the mum's character either. Didn't warm to her, didn't like her. Found her annoying the whole time. So yeah, there you go. There's my gripey element. That was about 10 minutes long. So if you hung around for that, little bit difficult to get in touch without spoiling it for people and letting me know what annoyed you about the movie. If you can leave some comments, please do. Try not to spoil it for others if you possibly can. Be respectful. Write the fact that it's a spoiler comment first, maybe, and feel free to let me know what you hated most about the movie. I'm assuming you hated the movie, but if you didn't, please get in touch. I would love to hear from people that think I'm wrong and have a completely different opinion. I would love to know what you thought of the movie. You know, am I being harsh? Am I being overly critical? Or do you feel exactly the same as me? You know, I'm not the kind of person that thinks my view is the only view. Everybody has a different view about things. I often feel I have a different view about things to most film review people. That's why I started this podcast, and equally I got sick of film reviews giving away way too much about the plot. So yeah, that's the thing. The fact that Godzilla was on our side, he doesn't say that until like the last part of the movie. Oh, that's another part that really annoyed me. Oh, we could nuke the animal, you know, when they got down to his den. Well, we could nuke him, sir, but there's a slight problem. Oh, a slight problem. Okay, what is it now? When we crashed, the nukes won't launch anymore. That's not a frickin' slight problem. That's a major problem. You have nukes and you can't launch them. Oh, it's a slight problem. It's a frickin' massive problem. God, what kind of fucking script writing is that? So annoying. Oh, a little problem, a little bitty problem. But you know what the good news is? It means we get to have another hero. The Chinese guy gets to volunteer to go and take the nuke in and pat Godzilla on the head and say hello and nuke it that way. Oh my God, that really annoyed me. It's like, oh, how convenient. Everything that could have gone wrong seemed to go wrong. And it just got a little bit overwhelming, as if they were just trying to make it like non-stop, oh, drama, spectacle, oh, major situation going on that we have to overcome. Oh crap, now we've got to talk and have some storyline and some plot. Just get the 2-year-old to make up some lines, you know? Let's get back to the smashy, grabby, disaster stuff. It annoyed me. So there you go. I think I've talked about all the gripes that I wanted to. I think I remembered them all. Let me know what you liked or you hated. Thank you very much for listening. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you found this review entertaining and also useful. So until the next one, thanks for listening and goodbye.